I got licks today, so I'm gonna go torture that. But it's really good. They're really nice up there, and but like when you leave, like you feel like $1,000,000, like you could tackle the world. But
Energized.
then it
Yeah.
lasts for about I'd say 3 weeks, and you start kind of like going back. They say you need to do like 3 or 4 sessions and stuff, and before really you like it starts really long lasting. But I went twice or 3 times, and it lasted probably a good 2 months before I started tightening up again.
That's how I feel when I leave the chiropractor. I'm like, I'm good. But then like 3 days later, I'm just like right back
Yeah.
to pulling because I can't relax anything. Everything's so tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like compensating on this side. And
That's why I can't even run no more.
I hadn't ever been a big runner.
I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, I was.
You had to be though, right?
Yeah, we did, but I was real skinny because I was training for sniper school. So like when I like cut, I had to do it like I had to have some sort of goal. Or I'm just like I'm so non-disciplined. That's why I'm trying to bring discipline back by walking every morning and every night,
Yeah.
and just trying to do like make life habits like that.
Yeah.
It is hard, but
Last time I ran was like cross country in high school. It was the 3.2 miles or whatever, like long distance. Never want to do it again.
really,
Never ever want to do it again. Like I can walk. I'll get on the treadmill and walk, but like running, it's just I don't know. I don't feel it. I
really,
don't feel it.
it's hard.
Like, what's the point? Unless I'm having to run from something,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
then it's gonna be wow.
And just hope someone's slower than you.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, guys. So welcome back to the TBM podcast. It's been a long time coming. We've been pretty busy filming and doing other stuff for other people, other companies, and we've been trying to align different podcasts. But we finally got the infamous Caleb Holloway on here. We've been trying to try. Nothing just works. Scheduling with kids, I know that that day's coming for me one day. You know, every day. Like at first, I was like, you know what? I'm never having kids ever, 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 ever. Now, like everyone's starting to have kids, and I'm starting to like their kids. You know, I'm holding them all the time. My buddy I was in the Marine Corps with Bucks, who helps us with all this clothing, and he brought his little baby over here, and I was just like, God, dog. It was nice having a baby around the house. It was calming. It was weird. So, but Caleb, he's a firefighter here in Deep East, Texas, but he's got a crazy story, and I want him to tell it, and we'll kind of converse on it. And it's not going to be crazy in detail because I don't want to make any, you know, PTSD moments kick in. He starts kicking my ass over here. So, but I also want to talk a little bit about mental health because like that's a problem that we all struggle in. And whether you admit it or not, you do. And I just came to really terms with it after my wife was about to send me to Brentwood. So we're gonna go, and I know you probably not gonna talk much on yourself. So kind of tell us where you are in your department, and like kind of where you plan to go.
Okay. Yeah. Work for the Nacogdoches Fire Department. I've been there for over a decade now. So I'm working on my 11th year. I am been a firefighter since day one. Ride on the heavy rescue truck.
That's the gig.
I've been probably on heavy rescue for 6 out of the 10 years. Bounced around 2 other stations, but downtown's kind of like my home for now. I don't know. Maybe promote to driver, maybe captain before my 25 is up.
You have to. I wouldn't spend time driving much because you need to be in that captain seat. I think you have so much influence in your personality. Personality would benefit a lot of people. But I remember, how long was you with Bubba at Station 4?
I was with Bub and John Paul for probably over 2 years.
Really?
A little over 2 years.
That was a crew right there.
Oh, man. It was so much fun.
That was a crew.
And I was probably in the best shape I've ever been. It's probably the strongest I've ever been working with those two because they're just like, they go at it, working out, and then push you to the next level.
They're just heavy hitters. They're heavy hitters.
They are.
And so, outside of your fire department, what do you try to do all the time?
Got 3 kids. Got a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a about to be 11-year-old. So we do a lot of sports. We do a lot of just hanging out at the house. So a lot of my recreational activities that I used to do, I really don't have time for that anymore. So like more family focused.
Yeah. And 'cause, I mean, kids like my Cappy's got I feel 20 kids, and it's always something. It's always something like going to soccer games and this
Yeah.
that. Especially when they like the sports. Like I didn't like the sport, so I always begged mom to like don't make me go to practice and stuff. So I think it made it easier on her. But then you got kids that like sports. Oh man,
Love 'em.
it
They
gets
love 'em.
overwhelming.
My both 10-year-old and 8-year-old love baseball. So like that's right up my alley. I love baseball. So them taking that on and like really, and they're good, man. I'm not boasting or anything.
Yeah,
They're just
it's
really
okay.
good. They work hard. They know what work ethic is.
Mm-hmm.
So they work hard and they know they're gonna have to work hard to get to that next level. And they're showing that in sports and in other areas in their lives. So
Where do
I
they
feel
go?
like
Central
Chris and I
Heights?
are doing a pretty good job.
Oh, I'm sure y'all are. Central Heights or
No, they're at SFA right now.
okay,
They're at charter school,
okay.
and it only goes to 5th grade. So Chase will be going in 6th next year. We gave him the option. We were like, okay, these are your options. This is where we're zoned. This is where we could go. And he went and did a shadow day at Regents
Mm-hmm.
Academy and Classic Christian School,
Mm-hmm.
and he loved it.
Really?
And I love that for him because we're really Christian people, and just to build the foundation on that in those young years, it's
You
great.
have to. I
Yeah.
mean, you just look at public schools now.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. It's nuts. And that's something me and my wife had conversations about. Like, we're definitely planners. Like we're like, even though we don't have kids and we don't even want to have kids right now, like we're already planning for kids. But that makes no sense at all. But
Oh, it does. It does. We did the same thing, but
But we came on the conversation of like public schools and like how bad they are now. What's influence? Because I know whenever I was in like when I was in 4th grade, I knew what sex was. I knew what drugs were. Like there's people have different backgrounds, different cultures and stuff, and everything's just intermingled and educated in school. And now it's educated real early, and our society's gone way off in left field to where like you only have so much time to like build this foundation within their morals and ethics in this short period of time before they're exposed to everything. If you can prolong that till they're 18 years old, I think you'd have a lot better chance of them not maybe going to college and taking that leftist field. And
yeah,
I think that's a smart move, a very smart move.
yeah. And a lot of it is we had troubles in our school.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, and I'm not calling any schools out, but like we're just trying to raise them to choose your friends wisely.
Mm-hmm.
Who you hang out with, it's going to impact who you are.
Oh, absolutely.
So choose your friends, hang out with the right people, and make the right choices. And hopefully, that goes throughout college, and I hope so. Anyway, that's my prayers.
Yeah, well, people, I hate to say this, they're gonna make mistakes. I made more so than I made mistakes for everybody. I made mistakes for all my brothers, but that like I don't say that. I kind of regret some of the mistakes I made, but it definitely gave me some understanding that I don't want to be arrested. I don't want to go back to New Orleans jail, and I don't want to do a few other things. But like, I think some of those are like good learning lessons, but they can also impact your life dramatically.
Yeah.
And you don't want that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely learning experiences. I like that because, no matter what in your life, it's a good choice, bad choice. It's a learning opportunity, and especially the bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did the same thing
Yeah.
growing up. You suffer the consequences, you learn from it, and grow from that. So I don't know. And we started kind of late in our relationship, having kids. Got married when 25, 26, somewhere around there, and we immediately knew we wanted to have kids. So I'd already had that span of 18 to 24 or whatever when I was just like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And so I'd already experienced that little stint of my life, and I knew that I'm ready to settle down, ready to start a family. And Kristen, whenever I met her, just beautiful woman that of my dreams, and she was so good. She was in school, and I was pretending I was an SFA.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
and I was just
using your
hanging
brother.
out. Yeah, but I knew she was a good girl. I knew that she was a keeper, and like I tried super hard to be a good guy around her, which I was a good guy, but it was like one of those. I know she's the one, so I'm gonna like change a little bit. And then like we got married, and happiest day of my life. Started trying to have kids, and we were having trouble. Like immediately, like fall on our wedding and you know newlywed phase, the 6 month. You know we were like, hey, let's start a family. We both got good jobs. I was at that point like I had been in the oil industry for a little bit, not long. And she's a speech therapist, so she had a good job. So we were financially stable. We bought our first house, and then we started trying to have kids, and we were having a lot of trouble. And it's not something I share with a lot of people, but I think it should be known. Like we did IVF, we did in vitro, and the first attempt was a fail. Like we went to Houston. This was like a year or two in. And the first attempt was a fail, like, and that was a punch to the gut for me because I knew I wanted to have kids, and you know that's probably all I'm going to talk about today is my kids, you know, because I'm so proud of them. But like that floored me. That like kind of grounded me, and we didn't know what was going on with that. But all that kind of ties into like looking back on it now. I can kind of see like God's plan working out. I couldn't see it in the moment, and it was just like frustration.
It's hard.
Frustration.
It's a whole lot of trust and faith that you have to have.
So yeah, man, it was. But yeah, we did the first. I don't know. I don't even know how much it was. And like she takes care of all the finances and stuff. So it was just like one of those things. Like, man, we spent a lot of money, and this doctor, the specialist in Houston, told us, don't sink any more money into this. You're probably going to be unsuccessful. Look into adoption. And I was like, man, I love, adoption's good, but I kind of want my own kids, you know? So that was a hard thing on us early in our relationship, but it was also something that we could grow off of. It was really rocky there for a little while. But we kind of focused. It was a little bit of an opportunity to kind of focus on work and trying to strive a little harder at work to get ahead there. Because when I got into the oil industry, oil and gas industry, I worked for a really small company at first and promoted pretty quickly. But it was easy because you just outwork the next guy and you kind of get like field promoted.
Yeah.
But then I left that company and went to Transocean, which was the biggest and the best in the business. And it was a little harder to promote there. Not hard, but you had to do the paperwork and do, all kinds of OJT, on the job training. And so focused on that a lot and put in a lot of work on promoting out there and quickly moved up. But yeah, that was kind of an opportunity to use that hardship to apply to something else in a positive way, even though you're constantly thinking about it,
And let's talk about like the God's plan through the situation. So we'll talk about the incident. So like you was struggling having kids, then the incident happened.
Yeah.
And and then whenever was at lunch the other day talking about that, I thought about it the whole way home, like how that orchestrated, or how God orchestrated that. And so, and we'll go about talking about the BP oil spill that was pretty profound, probably one of the most catastrophic incidences like outside of 9/11 and stuff that happened. So my family's from Grand Isle, Louisiana, and this happened right off the coast of it, And so, what year did that incident happen?
2010.
2010.
Yeah,
pretty much y'all was out there drilling and stuff like a normal day, and everything went to hell, into chaos.
Yeah, we were actually in the final phases of completing this well that we had been on for close to a year. I think let me back up a little bit. The Transocean Deepwater Horizon was a deepwater drilling rig. We were exploratory drilling rig. So what we did was we would go out and we would punch the hole for whatever contractor. We were subcontracted out from companies like BP. So they would give us a location. We would go punch the hole to whatever depth they wanted and plug and abandon is basically what it was. So you go out there, you would get to the depth they want. And of course, there's so much more that goes into it that like I don't want to bore you with all the details, but it's like, the telescopes like the pirates use. That's basically what it does. You have to start big and go down and hang casing because when you're drilling, you don't want the walls to collapse, and you got drilling mud that's, you got to use a certain weight drilling mud. There's a lot that goes into it, but basically we go out there and we drill down to a certain depth, and they calculate all these different depths and all this different equipment, and it's checked and checked and checked by all the businesses involved or all the corporations involved. And you just get to that depth and you plug it, and we call it plug and abandon. You just plug it and you move on to the next location and punch another hole where they want you to. Another rig comes in and produces the well that you tapped into.
Okay.
So we had previously drilled the deepest well the deepest hole in the U.S. It was like 36,000 feet, something like that. And it took a year, of course. But I think the other one was in another country, and it was like 44,000 on land. But excuse me. We were usually in like 5,000 foot of water, 3,000 to 5,000 foot of water. And then, we'd go down and punch the hole. So we had been successful with this super deep well. It was like a record breaking, big feat for us. And we were one of the safest rigs by far. We had, I forget how many days we had, no lost time injuries. And that was a big deal for us because that's what we strived on. We were safe. We were effective. We were the best in the business. Deepwater Horizon, everybody knew us. Like, we were the ones to go to. So we had this contract with BP, and we were going to punch another hole, and we called it every well has a name. This was the Macondo well, and it was about the same depth as the other one that we had previously punched, so we knew we could do it.
Like the record breaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This was the well directly after that one. So I think I want to be 100% clear on that. But so we knew we could do it. We knew the rig was capable of doing it, and the personnel was capable of doing it. So we went into it with confidence and the skills to do that. And I don't know. We worked on it for like a year, and we had a few issues with it, but nothing out of the ordinary. And like you said, we were wrapping up. We were probably like, this was we did 21-day hitches. So like we would work for 21 days and then we did 21 days off. So this was our 21st day of our hitch. Really? And our 20th day, because we were scheduled to go home the next morning. So we had been out there for 20 days. My crew, not my crew, our drilling crew, it was our last night to work, and then we would catch a helicopter at 9:00 to go home the next morning. And we were wrapping up the well, so everybody was excited. We were gonna be done with that well. It was nicknamed the Well from Hell. Just nothing out of the ordinary problems, but it just seemed like it was a nagging well. Like something was gonna go wrong, it did go wrong. But like, I think we were doing the pressure test, which would be like 2 or 3 hours from being, okay, the pressures are good, we're going to plug this hole. And like next thing I know, like at 9:30, we get off at 11 o'clock that night. 9:30 that night, I'm sitting in the AD shack with my buddy Adam. Get a call from my driller Dewey. He said, "Hey, I need one of y'all to go to." Actually, he told me, he's like, "I need you," because I had the radio. I was the lead. I had promoted up to off the rig floor. I mean, off the main deck as a roustabout. Went from level 1 roustabout to like level 4 roustabout, and lead hand on the deck to rig floor working on subsea stuff because I wanted to be a subsea engineer. Mm-hmm. So I was like lead floor hand at the time, working on getting my subsea license. Had all my on-job training done for that. And yeah, Dewey called on the radio and he said, "Hey, I need one of y'all to go help Roy down in the pump room." And I said, "All right." So I started taking off my radio, right? And Adam, a good friend, he's from Yorktown, Texas, that was out there, we had been on the same crew for a while. He said, "Hey, you've been working your ass off today. I got that." And like, "I'll get that. I'll see you at 11:30," because we always worked out at 11:30 in our gym. We had a gym on the rig. And I said, "Okay, all right, appreciate it, man." And that was the last time I saw him. Like, that's hard. That was hard for me. That was one of the biggest things for me. It's like I should have been taking that call, and he took the call for me. And just something like after that was something really hard for me to accept. Mm-hmm. But 9:30 that night, around 9:30, I'm not going to get spot on with my numbers here, but around 9 o'clock, 9:30, somewhere around in there, I was mentoring one of our new hands on the rig floor, and we started having some troubles, and I noticed, some of the mud and seawater starting to come back a little bit, and I immediately knew something was up. Something was not right. Mm-hmm. And so headed up there as quick as we could to the rig floor. We were down lining up some valves for a vacuum. But I had Dan with me, and I was just explaining to him how certain things work on the rig. And anyway, by the time I got up the flight of stairs from the main deck to the rig floor, this thing, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, mm-hmm. but like the intensity of this thing, when it came back, it was Mother Nature at its worst. Like, the intensity of it, just, I can't explain it. It's like a jet engine. Like, mm-hmm. if you turn on a 747 full throttle, like, that's what you got in the middle of the rig floor, blowing up through the derrick. And that was when it initially did that was so frightening. Yeah. So frightening. I grabbed Dan because at this point, everything that was around the rig floor was, it wasn't huge, but it was big enough to have a lot of equipment mm-hmm. around. And so like these things that were on the rig floor, like sledgehammers, there's equipment laying mm-hmm. everywhere. These things started raining back down. Like, they just got blown. I think the derrick was 25 stories. I want to say it was 25 stories. But they got blown up through the derrick and out and about. And we started hearing these loud bangs, stuff coming back down. And started looking around. I said, "Oh, man." So I got Dan. I said, "Dan, come with me. Get in the heavy tool room." It was at least covered, so you're not going to get knocked in the head. I said, "Get in the heavy tool room. I'm going to the drill shack, figure out what I need to do. Don't leave. I'll be back."
At this time, it was just like pretty much a lot of mud and stuff. Like, there was no fire and flames.
No fire and flames. Okay. No fire and flames. This was everything that was coming back from this 35,000-foot hole that we had been digging at. So like I think we were almost done displacing most of the mud and replacing it with seawater, mm-hmm. which is lighter. So it helped didn't help the blowout situation, because what happens is first it starts blowing the mud, it starts pushing the mud out, and if once the pressure gets higher than the pressure that's sitting down on top of it, then just pushes everything out, and then whatever's under there comes back.
And was there anyone injured in that initial pressure blast?
Yeah. It knocked us, but like we had the drawworks, which is the cable that controls the top drive. We had it to shield us a little bit, but that initial blast, I couldn't make it to the drill shack. It was like so fierce and so violent. Like even trying to maneuver around behind stuff and make my way to the drill shack to get to our driller and tool pusher and all that. Like I couldn't make it there without feeling like I was going to get cut in half by this pressure that's like bouncing off of everything and just exploding throughout and it's not stopping. It's like, it's just a constant, constant feed of pressure. And so I'm on my radio, like I get on my radio and I'm trying to get in touch with my driller. I'm like, hey, Mr. Dewey, what I need to do? We had been trained in certain situations to go to certain areas. Everybody has an assignment. And, my assignment would be to go to the moon pool. I think it was valve 30 in the moon pool, and I was stand by that valve. So I'm thinking if I need to do that, but the intensity of this thing, like in the back of my mind, this is worst case scenario. This is going to kill everybody on this rig. This is not controllable. Like that's what I'm thinking in my mind. And I don't know how we're going to get this thing shut in. The only thing I had in my mind, like the only way we're going to get this thing shut in, and maybe it's because I was training so much on the BOP, on the subsea side of things, is like use the BOP and it's the close the annular. It's basically shut it in at the seafloor down there. That's our blowout preventer. I was just thinking scenario like this is probably the only way that this is going to be controllable, and I don't even know if that would have been able to control it. I don't think it would. Obviously, it didn't. But anyway, I'm trying to get to the drill shack. Can't get there, so we have these telephones that are placed throughout the rig that you can dial a four-digit number and contact anywhere in the like if you want to get the mechanic shop, you dial a 4. We had them memorized. I don't remember them anymore, but I remember the drill shack 2110 or 2111. And so I go back to that phone because I couldn't get anybody on the radio either. And by the time I get back there to the heavy tool room, which is like 10 steps away, Dan is like pacing in a circle. And I'm like, hey, man, calm down. We're good. We're all good. No worries. Right when I picked this phone up, like that's when I felt the particles of gas. Like I could taste it. You know how it is whenever you're in a vapor kind of. You can kind of feel it and kind of taste it. It's just heavy, and we're in this like enclosed little metal room with one opening, and I could feel that stuff coming in. So I'm like dialing 2111. Nothing. Couldn't get in. Nobody's picking up. Of course, they're probably busy in there. But I feel that I'm like, damn, I got to get to the evacuation deck. There's nobody else on the rig floor. I got to get to the evacuation deck and then try to find some guys because this gas is banking down now, and it's a matter of a spark that's going to ignite. And we're in this little enclosed metal room. We're good as dead. Like if this goes. So like right when we get out the door and start heading down the steps, I can hear the engines revving. I'm thinking, oh man, what is that? Like the lights are starting to get really bright. The engines are revving real high, and the lights are getting bright, and then boom, lights went out. I was like, oh man, all the lights blew. and I don't even know how much time passed between that and the initial explosion. But I remember it was extremely violent. I remember having enough time to tell Dan, I had a Pelican light on me, and I was like, Dan, I got my light. Don't lose me. Don't hang on basically hang on to my belt loop.
Mm-hmm.
And just had to be a matter of, like, I don't know, seconds, maybe 30 seconds. Start moving back across the main deck, and it violently exploded. Huge explosion throughout the rig. Mm-hmm. Like, knowing what I know now, I know exactly where, looking back, didn't know exactly where everything had happened. But, like, thinking about it, having 12 years to sit here and think about it, it happened in the engine room, and, reading about it. It's like I feel like the gas got sucked in through the air intakes to the engine, and engine over-revved and caused a spark. And I'm not saying that's exactly what happened. I don't really know. I didn't really keep up with it. But it knocked us. It knocked us for a loop. I remember grabbing my hard hat and hitting the handrail, getting knocked that way, and looking down to the evacuation deck, and the door was blown off the hinges. I feel like I'm trying to think of every little detail right now. But I feel like the door, like, these are watertight doors, like 1 inch still thick, watertight doors with a handle, like a submarine door, blown off the hinges. And I remember thinking, like, there's nobody that's going to survive this. Mm-hmm. How am I alive? Like, how did I survive that? And they did really good with the movie. Like, I still haven't sat down and watched that whole thing because it's super accurate.
Really?
Yeah, as far as like the incident itself and the intensity of it, and the violence, just having to watch through that again I haven't been able to sit through and watch it.
Yeah, it's understandable.
I haven't really tried, it's just that part of my life is just kind of like, I don't want to relive that. Mm-hmm. But I did get to go and consult with them on the set, and which is really hard. But in that moment, like, I was like, there's nobody that's gonna survive this. Like, so anyway, Dan, we fumble around and find him, and whenever it goes dark out there, like, we're out in the middle, I think we're 88 miles out. Mm-hmm. So when it goes dark out there, all you have is the moon. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the only light you have, unless you have a flashlight. And at that point, like, you had the glow from the fire, because it had just ignited, and now you got a jet engine of fire blowing out the center of the rig. And all that metal, you could just, you could see it, like, you see it heating up, like, it's like scary stuff, super scary stuff. I still grabbed Dan, like, hey, we got to, I don't remember what lifeboat that I was trying to get him in. I remember grabbing a life preserver. We had the little orange ones that go around your neck only. I grabbed one of them and I handed it to him. I don't know if I helped him put it on or what, but handed it to him. And I was like, stand by. I'm going to go in and see if there's anybody that's alive in here. Because I had the light. And you could, you had a little bit of light from the glow of the fire by the lifeboat. And I was like, stay here. If I'm not back here in a minute, then take off. But we had practiced, evacuation drills every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And that's all perfect world, sunny day. Hey, evacuation drill. And everybody, like, walks in a straight line to the evacuation deck. But, like, it's like, this was never practiced, like, real chaotic. Like, I don't know who's here, who's not here, who's going to make it to the evacuation deck. So when exactly do I tell you to leave if I'm not back? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like,
no, there's no contingency.
I think I said 15 minutes. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, go.
I don't think no one could ever plan that. I mean, that's like worse than worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That was probably on no one's mind that would ever happen, ever.
Never. Not in a million years. Like, I never would have thought. Yeah, I would never have thought. Like, blowouts happen, but not like to that capacity. Like, it was just, I don't know. And I'd had what, 5 years, 6 years experience in the field, and we'd had kicks, we'd had blowouts, but like, it's all controllable.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, it was a beast in its own.
So after you put Dan on the lifeboat and you went back into it.
I don't know if he got in a lifeboat. I don't really remember if he got in a lifeboat, but I told him to stand by at the evacuation deck, and I went back in. It's super unclear which door I went in first. I want to say I went in, like I went down this evacuation deck stairs to the living quarters. I want to say I went down there and like everything was unrecognizable, and that's what's hard. Like I can't remember exactly which door I went in first. I know I went in both doors. I don't know if I went in the top one first or the bottom one first. But they were both blown off the hinges. The entire like main deck was collapsed in. The walls were collapsed in. It's unrecognizable. I've been on that rig for over 3 years, and unrecognizable. And I'd walk those halls day in and day out. So, like I didn't see anybody either. It's like, man, I gotta get to the pump room. Somehow I gotta get to the pit room, because I know that's where my crew is. Hopefully they're on the rig floor. They're gonna shut this well in somehow. They're gonna shear the pipe, whatever the case may be. Hopefully that's happening in the drill shack. And then I'll see them on, there's another evacuation deck on the aft of the rig. And hopefully I'll see them on the rescue boat or whatever's going to happen throughout this. But honestly, I was like, I don't know if we're even going to make it off this. So I'm trying to find a way to get to the rest of the crew. One, I felt the responsibility. I was the lead hand. Mr. Dewey and Mr. Don had put me in charge of being the lead floor hand. So I have essentially 4 guys working, not under me, but I'm just kind of delegating for the driller. It's like I didn't consider myself a supervisor or anything like that. I was just a glorified delegator. So Mr. Dewey would say, "Hey, I need this done," and be like, "Hey, who wants to do it?" And we were a good crew, dude. They knew how much I cared for them. I knew how much they cared for me, and we loved each other. And it was like we had worked together for so long. It was like we knew who was good at what. Like changing valves or whatever, Adam. Hey, I'll call on Adam to do that. Something in the derrick. Hey, Shane, I know you're good at that stuff. Let's see if we make that happen. And I was good at just socializing with everybody and kind of making things happen and helping out as whatever I could. But super good crew, man. Lost some good friends that night. Lost some good people. World's not the same without them. But yeah, so like the rig was unrecognizable. Couldn't started to see some action, like some movement down the hall. And so I picked my flashlight up. I'm like, "Hey, this way, this evacuation deck's over here. Come on." And that's when, I guess that's where all the bedrooms were. It's where like the living quarters were, the bedrooms. People just like started coming out of there, and they were just coming out. And you go from this pitch black. There's lighting on the wall for glow in the dark illumination for evacuation. So they had that little light, and then immediately when you go out the door, you turn around and there's this huge fireball blowing up out at the center of the rig. And people were getting out of bed and just coming out and jumping off. It was a 65-foot air gap, too. So it was like 65 foot to the water from where we were at. And I thought about jumping. I honestly did. Like, it was in my mind. It was like, I'm going to get off here. But then I had that I felt responsible for those guys, and I was like, I can't. I've got to go find them, and I've got to do whatever I can to just save our home here. That was our second home. We spent 6 months together out there, a year. So I spent half of my time with them, half the time with my family at home. So it was a second family and a second home, really. And but everything that had spilled out, the oil and gas, whatever, hydrocarbons, they're floating on top of the water, so they're on fire, so the water's on fire. So these dudes that are jumping and they're like landing down there, and it's like, I remember looking over because one of my buddies, Matt, he was my roommate. Not my roommate, but we shared a bunk. So like when he was working, I was in his room, and when I was working, he was in my room. So we were like our relief. But I remember him coming out and like climbing over the handrail and like staring at this flame on the evacuation deck. I'm like, hey, there's the water's on fire, and it's just chaos out there. And I don't know if he slipped or if he tried to like just let go and take the plunge, but he hit something going down, and I saw his leg break. Like, so I crawled on the other side of this handrail, and I'm like looking down there. I'm like, man, if he doesn't come up, I'm gonna have to jump in and like drag him from getting into this pool of water that's on fire. But he came up and he started like back shoving. He ended up with a broken leg. But yeah, I crawled back over the handrail. I was like, okay, we gotta find a way in here. We gotta get everybody we can off of this rig. And like I said, we had practiced evacuations and stuff on Sundays. Every Sunday was evacuation day. I remember because the cooks would grill for us. Like, they would grill steaks for us, and I was like, wake up at like lunchtime, fixing to go on duty. Be like, man, it's gonna be a evacuation drill or a fire drill or whatever the case may be, because I can smell the grill. I can smell them cooking steaks, and I can't wait to get in there and eat one because we had some really good cooks out there. But anyway, we had practiced that. Everybody's supposed to muster up at the evacuation deck. You're gonna read your name off a list, get checked off, and then you're gonna be assigned a certain lifeboat, depending on your room number. And all that goes out the window in real life. Like, we don't know who's jumped in the water. We don't know who's accounted for that was on duty. We don't, and they were trying. Don't get me wrong. This crew of people that I was with, with the rig held 100. I think it would board 100 or house 140, 150 people, and I think there was over 100 on there, and all good, great people who tried as best they could to, do what they were supposed to do, and their training had kicked in. But in real life scenarios like that, it's really hard.
Planning is essential, but plans are useless.
Yeah, I don't know how you can train for that until you're in it.
You don't. You pray.
Yeah, and did a lot of that too.
You're going through looking for your crew. So you go in that hallway, you find all these people, and they're pretty much just walking out, jumping off. Yeah. And like, are some of them going to lifeboats too, or are they all? Yeah. Really?
It's starting to get crowded, a little bit crowded on the evacuation deck. I remember that, and I'm like, okay, what's my quickest way? What's the best way to like get to the pump room from here?
That's where your crew is at.
And well, that's where they were working at. I don't know if that's ideally where they were, if they had tried to maneuver out some way, but that's where I thought we needed to get. And it was not accessible. Couldn't get to it at that, I wish we could have, honestly do. I wish I could have even thought of a different route to go, but like in the moment, it's just like, okay, this is almost to the point of being like, if we don't get these people off the evacuation deck and mustered into these lifeboats and out of here, then nobody's going to make it.
Are conditions getting worse at this time?
Yes. Like there's secondary explosions. Everything's getting so hot. I don't know. Y'all know about levees and stuff, and well, we have these containers on there that are full of combustible liquids, and those are starting to pop off. So I knew that, and they're nowhere near the rig floor; they're on the main deck. So I knew like the rig floor is taking the brunt of it, and underneath in the moon pool, like it's just like cooking underneath the rig floor. So all the main deck's starting to heat up, and it's all metal.
Yeah, it's going to eventually collapse.
So, like, we're worried about the derrick melting and and coming the way of the lifeboats where everybody was kind of mustered up. And we had no idea what was going on the aft of the rig. I was praying that, people were getting off the back, and that was my hopes because the pump room was closer to that evacuation deck. So in my mind, it's like everything in the middle of the rig is like blocked off. Everything's like, if you're on this side, you're going to be on this lifeboat deck. If you're on that side, so anyway, we ended up like starting to load. I think I was one of the last ones in the lifeboat. One, because I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for movement and like moving around in there. And two, I'm claustrophobic. I didn't like the little enclosed lifeboats. And I'm watching the derrick too. So like I get in and a really good dude, Chris gets in, and I remember standing there with him and just looking at him and being like, man, this is hell. This is like a nightmare. And out of the corner of my eye, I catch the movement, and it was like, everybody's screaming in there, like they're jam-packed in there, and everybody's screaming, we're gonna die, we gotta leave, we gotta pull the thing. And thank God they didn't, because that's when I saw some movement over here. So me and Chris got out and walked over there and kind of went in this little area, and there, Mr. Randy, he was a tool pusher. He got absolutely no recognition throughout the movie. A lot of people didn't get recognized in the movie just because it was mostly through the eyes of Mike, and it was kind of like, okay, this is Mike's story, and we're gonna do that. But like Randy, Steve, David, and I'm not gonna use their last names, but like these guys, it's heroic, like dragging people out, and I helped with the process of getting people that were critical off of there, and but these guys didn't get recognition. I felt bad for that. I love them. Hope they see this, but.
So were they dragging your crew out, or was your crew still not to be found?
I didn't know who it was. Couldn't recognize him. I knew the first person we got out was because, he was actually like, he wasn't on our rig. He was one of the big wigs, I guess, one of the office guys that came out there because we were getting recognized for being for our previous well and for such a good safety record, and what were we doing differently than everybody else in the fleet to make us as good as we were. So he was one. I remember getting him out.
Was he pretty demangled?
Yeah, he was on a backboard. Somehow they found a backboard.
Was there like paramedics on scene for this?
One.
Yeah.
And this is like, I had no medical experience at all. This is like the first time I'm seeing like real gore. Like, and it's, it is what it is, but like, it wasn't like one of those things. It was like, I just like turned my head and I couldn't stand. I was like, this person needs help. God, I've got to do what I can. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do what I can. But I remember having to take him off the backboard. You can get the backboard in there with I don't even know how many people were in the lifeboat. But we couldn't, he was a big dude too. But I remember when I like bear hugged him to get him off of the backboard, I'll never forget this, like the smell. It was like a gutted, like animal, you know, that deep blood, that iron metallic smell. He was burnt. He had a huge, deep gash on his neck. Shirtless, like just he was pretty mangled. I remember getting him in there and strapping him in, and all he's doing is he's like, I want some water, I want some water, I want some water. I'm like, I don't have any, but hang in there. We'll be at the lifeboat in a minute. Or we had not a rescue boat, but a supply vessel that was close by that they were taking everybody in. They had launched their boats. The Damon Bankson was the name of the boat, but they had launched their little rescue skiffs. And man, they were going and plucking people out of the water. Thank God for them. They saved some lives that night. But I remember getting Buddy in, and then we went back and got Mr. Jimmy in, and then, and I want to say they were pulling Wyman out, and they said, y'all need to go. And they were loading into another smaller like life raft. And I remember, we launched, and I'm just like, at that point, like I took my hard hat off, and I have some scriptures written in my hard hat. And I was just, you know, for daily reminders or whatever. But I remember like taking my hard hat off, and I sat in my lap. I didn't even strap in, and we're fixing to take the 65-foot plunge. I wasn't even strapped in. I was just like, I put my head down, and I was looking at my hard hat, and it's got Ephesians 6:11 written in it. And I just started like praying, man. I was like, God, don't take me. I can't. Like the thing that I'm thinking about is, it's kind of selfish. But I remember thinking this specifically. I was like, I cannot leave Kristen, like my wife of maybe a year now. Can't leave her with like, it just can't be my time. We've got to have a family. Like this is, I've got to have a family. Got to have a family. And I remember feeling like that was super selfish of me to pray for, like, hey, don't take me because I need this. And I haven't really fulfilled what I feel like my life's purpose is. And yeah, I kind of remember feeling like selfish about that a little bit. But, you know, also I was like, man, I pray that these guys are alive, like my crew, my friends, everybody survived. That's, you know, because going from, I don't think anybody's going to survive to thinking, okay, well, I don't even know who's in this lifeboat with me because it's completely pitch black. I don't know who's in this lifeboat. I don't know who's in the other lifeboat that's launched. I don't know who's in this raft that's launched. But when we get to the boat, I pray that everybody survives. I hope everybody survives. And I remember getting to the Damon Banks, and they threw a little rope ladder over the side of their boat, and we started filing out. I was like one of the first ones out of the boat because I was like the last one in the boat. And I was still able, and, you know, I was wounded, but I was still able to crawl out and have the able body to get up on deck and be able to help other, you know, like, okay, come on. And I remember standing up in the side of the lifeboat and like poking my head out and like looking at the other lifeboat, hoping to see somebody. And I did see Will. He was my mentor when I got hired on. And he was in the mechanic room. So in my mind, like the mechanic shop he was a mechanic. A mechanic shop's here, pump room's on the same level. It's like, if he made it out, okay, there's hope, you know? So it's like, okay. And just seeing Will, like, brought joy to my heart because he's like one of my first friends on there. I was like, Will, thank God. And anyway, got up and get on the banks, and I remember our RSTC. He's the medic. I said, hey, what can I do? He said, start triaging. And at that point, you know, I knew what triage was, but I don't, what do you mean? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, start doing what? he's like, get the walking wounded over here, get like critical over here. We're going to call for, they've got the Coast Guards en route, take the critical. I remember walking from that point into where they had taken the critical from the other lifeboat and looking in there. And I remember seeing this one guy laid out, like his face was just, he had this gash across his face, like, and he was so bloody and like just really bad shape. And I couldn't recognize who it was, but he looked up and he did like this. He gave me a thumbs up, and I was like, cool, man. Hang in there. Like, I didn't even know who it was. And it ended up being one of our, forget what his title was, but it was Brent. And, yeah, like, I saw like 4 people in there that are critical. And I was like, crap, this is not good. And then Wyman, my tool pusher from Louisiana, he looked up and he was banged up bad. He was on this like wooden bench, like a locker room bench, like right when you walk in. He looks up and he sees me, and they called me Hollywood on the rig. I don't know why, but he said, Hollywood, who made it? I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't know, Wyman. I don't know. I can't tell you who did or who didn't. I'm about to go back out and check the muster sheet, but I haven't seen any of my crew. But he was referring to like the drilling crew who made it, because we were on duty in Well Center. I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself. And I went out there and looked at the muster sheet that Troy had, and he had highlighted the people that had checked in with him. And at that point, all the lifeboats were pretty much empty, and the rig was unlivable, unsurvivable at that point. And they're still doing a 24-hour search. You know, this was probably, I don't even know how long into the incident it was, but I looked at that list. People were still getting highlighted, but I remember thinking, like, there's nobody else in the lifeboats. There's nobody else that they're picking up out of the water, and looking up at the rig and thinking, man, this thing is like unlivable. Like, if you're still on there, I don't think it's, like, my hope was starting to dwindle, but the only 2 names on the drill list, on the drill crew list, was me and Dan. I was like, man, no way. Can't be. So I walked around, hey, have you seen so-and-so? And then I went back in there and looked at the critical, and there was none of my crew. And so I sat there with Wyman, and I don't know for, like, to see another, like, grown man in so much pain, like somebody that I looked up to so much. He was a tool pusher, and it was like, he seemed invincible. He was one of those guys, like, I didn't want to cross. I had so much respect for, so tough. And for him to, like, lay there and be in so much pain, and I couldn't do anything but hold his hand. Like, I was holding his hand. And like, that was a really a hard moment to, like, this is starting to sink in. Like, this adrenaline's dumping. I mean, it's wearing off. It's already dumped. My adrenaline's starting to wear off, and I'm starting to see the results of what had happened. And, you know, this grown man that I've looked up to and, like, admired his work ethic and his, you know, he's sitting here just in pain, crying. He had 2 broken, shattered femurs, pelvis. Like, he was critical. And his whole lower half was just crushed. And he was the least of the critical. He was the last one we littered off of there with the Coast Guard. I remember carrying him out and giving him an old pat before he got lifted up to the chopper. And I was like, see you around, you know. Just remember being mad, not being able to do anything about it. And then we had to, you know, we were the Damon Bankston, the boat that we were on, was the primary rescue boat. So we had to sit there for 24 hours while they did their search. So we were sitting there for, like, the whole time, like, trying to figure out what happened, watching my home, and even watching our second home burn down, knowing that there's people on it. Like, that was incredibly hard for me. Still is when I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was pretty. I didn't even get into too much detail, but like, yeah, that's the story in a nutshell.
No, dude, that fucked me up.
Yeah.
Did they ever find your crew or
Nothing?
no? Nothing.
Nothing. No hard hats. No bodies. And then eventually, you know, the rig listed and sunk. We could see it in the distance. Like, you still see it in the distance. I remember, like, you know, after the 24 hours, they released us. And at that point, there were like 5 or 6 other firefighter boats, like spraying water, pumping water on it. And it wasn't, you're not going to put it out. And they were just dumping water on it. And it started listing. And I was like, this thing's fixing to go. And I remember kind of like saying a goodbye to myself. We grouped up. We held hands and said the Lord's Prayer. And I remember leaving out. From that and having to walk over by myself and kind of like just trying to take a breath in. And Mr. Bill, he came over there and he put his arm around me. The old man, reminded me of my grandpa. But he put his arm around me and he's like, hey, you're in a better spot. Sorry. No. He said, they're in a better spot, man. It's something that we can't even imagine right now. And I was like, yeah, but I wasn't ready to accept it. Mm-hmm. So, like, I was just agreeing, but I look back on that and I'm like so grateful for people, that whole group of people from the Horizon were incredibly strong and brave and good people. And I remember that moment Bill did that and walked over to me. Put his arm around me. I just felt like it was like a grunt, like my grunt, something my papa would do. Like, I'm really close to my papa, and like I felt like that was something he would do, and it meant a lot to me. But yeah, it was a 24-hour nightmare into a year-long nightmare into like still fresh and always will be.
The detail you just displayed in that was it was nuts. Like, man, I feel bad for you having to relive that during this conversation. Have my ass crying over here, and I don't cry often. So let's get back on a happier note. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So now you come home, and you have how many years after that did you have your first kid?
12, 2
years.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like the whole first year though was like a dark place for me, and I felt like everything got put on hold. And we were talking about like God's plan earlier, and not being able to have kids. In this whole year of me being not even responsible for myself, like I couldn't even be responsible for myself in that time frame from 2010 to like even into like a year after. Like, I was a mess. Like, I couldn't have been a good dad. I would have been a crap dad. So I knew that.
I think I got a whole hypothesis for that, or maybe understanding why God did that, because he knew that if you would have had kids before that, you would have already been probably in a comfortable situation. Whenever you got back, kids wouldn't have really been able to help you. But, you got back, then you had the kid, and it's something that's new to your life.
Yeah.
Kind of, made that flip for you. And it's just, whoever doesn't believe in God, y'all have your own personal beliefs, but like, there's no reason for me not to not believe in God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and so you go, you're home. Do you go to Fire Academy right after that when you get home? Or?
No, I was still employed with Transocean. I tried to make it work because we had put a lot of time and energy into Transocean and that next step promotion. like I miss it. I miss the work. I miss the environment. Like I really enjoyed the work, and I found it fascinating to be able to do some of the, have the capabilities of doing some of the stuff that we did. And then the subsea side of it, I was just like infatuated with it. I was like, I want to do this. I want to like know the schematics of this BOP and how it works. And,
that would have never interested me.
I didn't think it would me either, but like that was like, this is what I'm gonna do. This was my plan. Like, and I had it all planned out, and that's the thing. Like, my plan didn't align with what God had for me. Because I had 10-year plan, man. We were going to have a family. We were, both had good jobs. I was going to be a subsea engineer in this time frame, and going to be making great money, and this is going to be my career. And like all that's just turned upside down in a second. And but anyway, it wasn't immediately. I stayed employed with them for a year, and they treated me good. I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else. They treated me good. They were so respectful. And in that whole year of Krista and I went to as many of the memorials, the funerals that we could. And I think we made seven of them in a couple of months. It was super hard. And I spoke at Adams unexpectedly. I had the opportunity to speak at his memorial. His grandmother, Miss Winslet, wanted me to speak, and I wasn't prepared. And it was hard, but it was so, like, I appreciate it. Thank you, Miss Winslet, for that. But anyway, it wasn't immediate for me to try to pursue something else, because I wanted to make it work. I wanted to try. I wanted to, like, okay, this is what I enjoyed so much. So let's find a way. And realistically, like, I couldn't mentally go back out there. I couldn't, like, not knowing. I mean, would that ever happen again? Probably not. But just getting back into that environment, I don't think that's what God intended for me to do. So, like a year passed, and I just told them, I was like, they wanted me to go to petroleum engineering school. And I was like, I just can't, I'm not going to do that. Kind of late in our career, we're trying to start a family. I can't start another, like, huge school and move to Houston to do it. So Kristen and I talked, and she said, "Hadn't you shown some interest in firefighting?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Maybe that's a good avenue for you to go, because it can bridge the gap. It's kind of similar, but it's not the same, if that makes any sense." Yeah. And I was like, okay. And immediately, like, when I got into the academy, and made those friends, like, there was a little bit of relief from all this void space I had from losing all those friends. Like, not trying to replace them, but now I had, some other brothers per se for my occupation. And man, it was a healthy thing for me to do. So
the void's tough.
Oh,
I talk about the void a lot.
It's bad.
Like, I struggle with it really bad, and I'd be lying to you if I still don't. Of, like, just, like, going to Afghanistan, making the 2 deployments, and coming back, and, like, knowing I'll never be able to have that purpose again. Because, like, I lived my life for that purpose. I lived my life since I was little. I wanted to go overseas and fight wars. That's all I dreamed about. I imagined, and my unit in the 7th Marines, we were luckily only the still unit doing combat operations within those Middle Eastern countries, and I always prayed for it, and God literally gave me what I prayed for, and I can always thank Him for that. But coming into the fire service, like, there's nothing else I'd be able to do. I'm telling you, if I was not in the fire service, my wife would come home to me, and my brains would be plastered on all four corners of this room. And that I know it's a very gory me to say that, but it's very true. And it's not like I'm trying to discredit her of like she's not enough for me. My wife's way more than enough for me, and she'll always be way more. But she'll always be better than me, better looking than me. This everything better than I will ever be. But it's not that, And I wish that was enough, But the fire service has been good to me, and I'm trying to give it my 110%, And so if you like you deal with a lot of new hire trainings and mentoring people and stuff. And do you think like that incident gave you any advantage going to the fire service to see what you see there?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think it prepared me for like not to continually think about like worst case scenario, but like there's always things that can go wrong. And I've never been put in a fight or flight situation other than, your typical growing up stuff, but like seriously scared for my life situations. So to go through that one, kind of let me know where I stood in the fight or flight.
Yeah, for sure. That's where you find out about yourself.
Yeah.
Because everyone's different.
For sure.
Some people just can't help in their fight or flight response of being able to function and do things. Yeah. Like some people shut down and it's not, they can't even help it. Yeah. It's human psychology. And just being able to have your, be tested and know where you stand. Like I'm fortunate I have that, I'm able to know who I am in them scenarios, and you're fortunate that you know who you are in that. And so like you got your firefighter, you're starting to have your family, and where's your mental health status during all this? Because that's a huge traumatic event that probably very few people in this world got to experience. Like there's got to be tough situations and like this uncertainty and doubt that you're just resting on, and kind of like, did you seek a lot of counseling? Did you seek a lot of self-counseling?
I kind of shot from the hip for the first year, and that's why it was so hard, because I didn't want to accept the fact that this happened. Like I was still in this denial phase, I guess. And so I wasn't ready to accept it. So I wasn't ready to accept help from anybody. And I shut a lot of friends out too, like family and friends that reached out to help. So unhealthy for me to do that, but I couldn't see in that moment. It was like, I don't want to be a burden to anybody, so I'm going to deal with this by myself. And I don't know, just having that feeling of not wanting to burden anybody when I don't think I would have been. I know I wouldn't have been for my family at least, because I've got the best family in the world and they love me and they try to help me. They were reaching out, and I was just like, I'm good. I can handle this. I'm fine. And I really wasn't. And I did do some counseling, but it just wasn't. And it just may be harsh to say, but I'm going to say it. I was counseling from an older, sweet lady. I couldn't imagine her knowing what I was going through or understanding what I was going through. Like, I couldn't force myself to think, okay, yeah, she does understand where I'm coming from, because I couldn't picture her going through something like this. So it was like, I'm sitting here reliving this story, like at least twice a week with you. And you're telling me, oh, okay, I get it. I understand what you're going through. And I'm just like, but I wasn't ready to accept help. So like, nothing against her. She was a sweet lady, and grateful for her time. But like I said, I had to get right here and in my mind before like I could accept any kind of help. So like my mental health for the first year, it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like I was taking so much like dark energy in, that's what was displaying. Like irrational thoughts, that unrealistic thoughts, like, were just flooding my mind, and that was what's controlling my emotions. So it was just like this dark, empty person until I started like really leaning on the Word of God. Like that's the only thing that I found comfort in all of this. Like I couldn't, like alcohol, prescriptions, all that stuff, like none of it helped. It just, I mean, for me, and it may help other people, not alcohol. I'm not promoting that. But like prescriptions delayed the grieving process. Alcohol numbed the pain just for a temporary period. It made me, like, I was just a irritable, on edge person for that. For like, I mean, I can't give you exact dates, but like, I'm just gonna say that for a year, really rocky on our marriage. But Kristen is a special person. Like, I don't think anybody else would have put up with the way I was behaving. I don't think I could have found any other person that was going to put up with that and support me at the same time. Like, and I don't deserve that, but thank God for her. I love her. She was there by my side the whole time, and I was so selfish not to even recognize like she was going through so much too. It was all about me, and like I can see all that now, but before, man, it was just living
It's
in
selfish.
the moment. I can't. I'm
Like
I'm all
you
about
think of
myself.
selfish things when you're in that state.
Yeah.
It's all like it's, in which I don't mean to offend you if I said that, but like for me, it was all like selfish thoughts.
Yeah, that's me too. Like, and that's when it's like she encouraged me to go to this Bible study. This little, we lived in Lufkin at the time, and I had we lived in a cul-de-sac over at the golf course, and had some good friends over there, and they had a little Bible study, and she encouraged me to go over there, and like I found a lot of comfort in that. And so it was like until I started, reading that word and starting to put realistic thoughts like in my brain, and not these irrational. Like I couldn't control my emotions until I started putting good in. Like, and then things started turning around, and then then the academy happened, the fire academy happened, and things started happening. We ended up getting pregnant with Chase, our oldest, and I could feel my life like turning around, and it was so, I don't know, it was so pleasant to have that feeling after feeling like I've been just dragging everybody down and in this dark place in my life for it felt like an eternity. And like to start seeing the results of this new plan that is moving forward. And yeah, man, it's just, I feel like I was kind of on the right track, I guess, at that point.
You're doing really good. Doing really good. I remember when I first got out, I seen you at the gym. One of the first things you said to me, you came up and slapped me on the back and like shook my hand, and he goes, "Yeah, you kind of introduced yourself. I already knew who you was." And he was like, "Hey, if you ever need anything, talk, whatever, call me." And I've always remember that.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're a good person, man. And it's crazy. Like, I haven't went through anything like that. I'd be lying to you if I said I did.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't think anyone has translated to anything like that. Because, like, in the military, you sign up for especially in the Marine Infantry, like, you signed up for what you're going to go see. That you would have, no one there, I don't care what they say, no one there would have ever imagined that happening. Ever. I don't think no one in the company, like, it was historical. It really was. And I think that legacy and that incident will be gone on until the rapture happens.
Yeah.
It'll be taught and educated on, and maybe people learn from it, and it's craziness. But your reputation at the fire department and the fire community is outstanding.
Appreciate
So you're doing good things, man. And I'm glad that you just came here on this podcast to just share your story, you know. And because how long we been doing this place?
Almost an hour and 30.
Really? Yeah. I feel like I've been here for like 5 minutes.
Me too.
And that's the crazy thing is like, and man, I just wish I had more words to say. Like, I don't know. I expected this conversation to be intense, but I didn't expect it to be that. Even though I said like 2 words, I just couldn't stop listening.
Well, I feel bad. I talked all about it like the whole time.
No, you opening that much, you don't know how much I appreciate that. It means I don't deserve you to explain that to me.
See, like, man, I have so much respect for you guys that are military. Like, I feel like the things that I went through, like, couldn't hold a candle to what y'all, like, in the military people. Man, I have, my brother went to the Air Force and, like, never deployed or anything like that, but I just, like, man, that was something I wanted to do. So I have a lot of respect for you guys.
We all asked for it. I appreciate it, but this is what I wanted to do. Like, this is gonna sound horrible. It is, but like, I didn't do it for him. I didn't do it for you. I didn't do it for anybody. Like, it's the selfish. My reasons for going to the military is probably the most selfish than anybody else's reason. I just want to go kill people. That's it. It's selfish to say. It's bad. I know, but I try to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And it just refractory to that. And same thing with the fire service. Like, it's another selfish decision that I made to be part of the fire service. It's not, helping people and stuff that they indirectly benefit from it. But it's like the brotherhood is why I wanted the fire service. 'Cause I knew that's what I needed,
Yeah.
And it's been more so than I ever could imagined.
That was a huge thing for me too, like the brotherhood. And I talked about like bridging that gap. And those guys did. I don't. All the guys that I went through the academy with, I don't know how many of us were successful in getting a job. I think 3 out of 14 or something like that in my academy class. But kind of kept in touch with those guys. But then when I got hired at the department in NAC, I knew some of those guys already, and like just building the rapport with them and kind of already being on the same page as them because I was the same age as them, and not being a 21-year-old newbie in the industry. I was a newbie in the industry, but I'd actually had some real life experiences, and that that kind of stuff helps. And then I think other people view you differently too. I think that, I have been in charge of like in two of my other jobs, like over people, like not like supervising, but like leading others. And I think that, that showed a little bit in, the hiring process. And I'm grateful for all the people that fought for me, to get hired in NAC. It's a little tougher to get hired on in NAC, and I had a lot of people in my corner vouching for me. But I worked hard too to get that, so it wasn't given. And I had applications, and I had applications in all the way to Houston, man. I was really ready to go. I was ready to get something, turn that page, open that next chapter. And
it was crazy for me, like when I was testing places, like I was wanting to be either Beaumont or Baytown. Tested for them. I couldn't pass their test. Come to Longview, and I passed it very well, and I got hired on and stuff. And it's been nothing but great experiences.
That's awesome.
It's been wild. It's been a wild ride. Like that call the other day, I still can't quit thinking about that call that I was telling you about. It was nuts.
You're gonna have to tell me more about that.
I'll tell it right now.
Tell it.
All right, so we got dispatched to a fire last shift. It's like at 2:00 in the morning, off of Joel Street, up in the hood. We get there, and it's a duplex. It was like a house converted into a duplex. It was really weird. We've been to this house before on many med calls. There was always something going on there. So the engine's in front of us. So it's the engine, chief, then us. We're in the medic. And so I'm already bunked out. My buddy Willis Corman that was on the call with me, he's already bunked out. And so as we're pulling up, the house, second story's on flames. We look, and Willis like pointed over there and like was talking about like, bro, there's people jumping out the window, and people are like, we're watching people jumping out the window, and so like we're getting fired up, we're getting fired up, and I'm over there like get hollering, let's go, and like whatever. So we get out, and I put on my air pack and stuff, and then I run to the engine, and I grab the hose, get ready to deploy it, because Cap went Denver, the guy riding back seat, he got stuck with his air pack. So he's stuck in the back seat. Well, Cap went in there and went to try to go save some victims. And you go see what was going on. So I go, then like Chief, he's walking up, kind of doing his scene's eyes up at his 360, and he goes, Gunner, go to the victims. And so it wasn't even relaying in my mind what was going on. Like I should have been already at the victims, but like I just had like a tunnel vision focus to go fight fire. So I stopped for a second, like, what am I doing? Like, I had like a second to like blank and like reset. So then I ran over to the victims and stuff, and I helped this one that just fell, the lady that we actually transported. She was pulling her out. The bystanders had her in her seat, bringing her to the edge of the road, and she's already in like severe respiratory distress, like can't breathe, and she's already got like coarse breathing and stuff like that. She's not burned or anything. I think she just breathed. Yeah. And so I tell Corman, like, hey, back the ambulance up to the engine, and I got some help. We got her loaded up. Actually, there was no help. It was just me and Willis because, like, the other oncoming units were still on their way. And this was happening fast. Got her back to the ambulance and stuff. We're starting IVs and stuff, and we made the decision, like, we're going to have to tube her. Like, we don't have much time at all. So we get the RSI medications, get all that all prepped, and we're like, ask Chief, like, hey, we need some help. Or ask Sands, hey, we need some help. Our driver, he's like, bro, we ain't got no help. So we're like, all right. So me and Willis, we were over there starting IVs, whatever, pushed the RSI drugs, got her down, and Brian Adcock and another guy came in to help, K-Mac. And so go to tuber. We open up her airway. It is a puckered butthole. Barely see anything. And so Willis tried a couple times, and Brian Adcock tried, and it was unsuccessful. By that time, it's already done closed all the way shut. Yeah. There's no oxygenation going on.
How long does the RSI meds work?
Quick.
Like 5 minutes?
Do
they...
So the ketamine, it sets in pretty quick. I'd say probably within 15 seconds. But she still had her own respiratory drive. So she was still breathing on her own. Rock, we pushed, and it takes away everything. And bad thing about rock, it's not like sucks and Vec. Like, you have to give sucks. It's short. It don't last long. Vec is what the remainder of it lasts for a while. Yeah. Rock, it's kind of the one-stop shop. Like you give it and it's done. It's for a while. So we give it, and airway is unsuccessful. I was like, Willis, like, hey, just start bagging her. So I'm like, Willis, we're not getting any kind of oxygen exchange, and she's starting to Brady down. And I was like, we have to crack her. So we go, and I got the crack hit on nerves. Never done this before. I always heard stories about it. And so I laid all my stuff out, and I go, here we go. So she's a bigger lady, obese, got a big neck, and I find my landmark. I think I find the landmark. I start cutting through like 2 inches of fat. I think I found it. So I go and I cut it, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is it. So I cut, made my vertical incision, made my diagonal incision, and I stuck my pinky in there and hold my spot open. And I grabbed the PHI makes like a little crack kit. It's like a prefab tray thing. And so I stuck it in there, and we finally got some oxygen exchange.
Really?
Yeah, I could tell, and I'm bagging her. It's real tight. And we're having a lot of airway resistance, but it's starting to work. While I'm cracking her, cutting her open, she codes. And so, like, he's doing one crew left, another crew hopped in, and they're doing compressions as I'm trying to crack.
To add another layer to the difficultness.
Yeah, I know. And as I'm trying to crack with their coding and stuff, but we finally get everything situated and stuff. Haul ass to the hospital, in about 2 minutes, being at the hospital, they got her back. Nice. And they flew her to Parkland. Nice. But, like, I'll never experience another call like that, ever.
I don't think I'll ever do a crack. I don't think that it would ever fall in my lap.
I never thought it'd fall in my lap either. Really? I never thought it would, but it was such a crazy
That's
call.
like movie stuff, man.
I don't know.
Movie stuff.
No, that's you. It was wild, and I gained a lot of experience in that call, and I think Willis did too. We worked really great together. He just moved to our station, and he's just so fun to work with. But yeah, it was a crazy call and stuff like that. I've been thinking about that call since it happened.
Congrats. That's a big win. Like getting one back.
Yeah, it was. It was, like we can maybe quarterback play this thing, whatever you call it, all day long, like things we should have done differently. But
Yeah.
I mean, like that lady was going to die if we didn't get that airway.
Yep.
And thank God we made it happen. But, well, Caleb, I guess we'll finish this up.
All right.
I appreciate you coming, man. Guys, you're going to have to watch this episode. You're probably going to cry a little bit, and I'm sorry. But it's very, really heartfelt. It's very intense. And I really appreciate Caleb having this conversation with us. Like, man, I don't know what else to do for you. Like, I can't put it in words. Like, I wish if I can give you the world, I would just be able to tell that story to me. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I'll be happy to come back and do anything else.
Well, yeah, we'll do more. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, Blaze, when you're going to have it released. And please comment, give us some feedback, anything that you need to tell us or whatever. We're designing more products. We're about to release this. Everything's on the website. We got to retake a couple photos, then we're going to get it sent out. Hopefully this week, start selling stuff. I know, guys, y'all been waiting on my ass. But I'm working on a new product design and stuff. Brought in a female to help with this clothes, and excited to work with her to help, because on the female side, I was just struggling. And my wife didn't want to be too active in it, so decided to bring a female firefighter in, and we're starting to work with her. So she down there in Florida. But we been doing a lot of filming. Did some filming for Paul Howell on some of his shooting classes. We got another filming project we got coming. Well, actually, two more. One's a firefighting class, and another one is another shooting deal, like a class being taught by Chris Melton. And hopefully Marcus Luttrell's going to be there, get to meet him. That'd be a cool experience. And yeah, so hey guys, if you have anybody with any stories or any that wants to come on the podcast, please send us an email, let us and nominate them, and then I'll reach out to them and try to get them on. Thank you guys for watching. Cool.